Today I'm talking about the drama triangle. And anytime I ask people to learn something about how we work as human beings psychologically, I ask you to come to it with compassion and validation. And here's what I mean by that. Here's a picture of an iceberg. You only see 1/8 of the iceberg. Everything else is below the waterline. We only visibly see about 1/8 of what people really are. And underneath, if you go with this metaphor, we have all of our history, all of our relationships, all of the positive things, negative things, how we respond to them, our resources, all of that is what pushes things up above the waterline. And so before we start, I want you to come to it for yourself with compassion and for others with compassion. And validate that wherever they're coming from, just borrow my validation. I've sat with thousands of hours with people. And even if it doesn't make sense, what you see above the waterline, once you sit with them and see them, it always makes sense. It's valid. It might not be very helpful. It might not create relationships, but it sure makes sense given who they are and where they've been. Then I am going to ask you to go first. I want you to be the change that you want to see. You jump this gap and look at yourself and do the work that only you can do because it's inside of you. And so I would like to see you apply this to yourself. Now, it's going to be so easy to see it in other people, right? Oh my gosh, it's so easy to know what's going on with them and what's wrong with them. My challenge to you is to hold on to that to the last 10%, and then we'll talk about that, okay? Because the most important transformation you can create in the world is transforming yourself. And then there's integrity. Then there is reason to inspire people to change. So you'll see yourself in this drama triangle. I don't know anyone who doesn't. Remember compassion, remember validation. It all makes sense. Now, let's dive in. The drama triangle was created by a man named Karpman. Karpman's drama triangle. And it's used in a number of ways in psychology and business and a number of different communication techniques. And you can look it up. If you want to do more research, you can just type in the drama triangle, and Karpman was the originator. It's important that we give those beginning people with brand new ideas, because I hope someday I will have a brand new idea. I hope they attribute it to me, but I don't know if they will. But anyway, Karpman, this was his idea. And the most important thing is to know if you don't talk about it, you'll act it out. So it's an unconscious push in this triangle when it is formed. So the most important thing is to catch it and say, wow, I might be in this rescuer position or a victim position or a persecutor position, for you to see it and talk to someone about it, talk it out. There are 3 corners of this drama triangle. One is the persecutor. This person's pretty obvious. They get loud, they get angry, they blame. They want something to happen and it's going to be their way. The other person is at the bottom of the triangle, is the victim in this, who's getting pushed upon, and then the rescuer is trying to pull the victim out of there. And so it's pretty easy to identify some of these in yourself and in others, but remember, pull it back to yourself. The most important thing is to realize if you see yourself on any place in this triangle, you can step out of it. The point of knowing the triangle is to stop it and step out of it. Let me give you some more description about each part. Let's just make mom the persecutor, because it's always the case, right? So we've got mom saying to child, and let's put that damsel in distress as my 10-year-old, and I'll make the rescuer grandma. Okay, so let's just say we have all three of us in the room, and mom, the villain, says, hey, I want you to clean your room. And the child is like, oh, I can't clean my room. And so they're overwhelmed by it. So the hero grandma comes in and says, oh, honey, you don't need to clean your room. I'll do it for you. Well, then the mom gets very angry and starts pulling out her hair like, what are you doing? And gets loud and says, not only will you clean your room, you're going to clean the bathroom too. And then you're going to mow the lawn. And so then the rescuer has an even bigger role. They go to shut down the villain, because now the villain does look kind of like a villain. And the rescuer, isn't this a great position to be on this drama triangle? Don't most of us want to be that one? It seems like the best one, doesn't it? The victim is like, oh, I'm helpless and I'm stuck and I need help. But the rescuer really has a dark side, because inside of the rescuer position, and I'm not saying it's in your heart, I'm not saying you intend it, but there's a superiority that comes with that. And it prevents the victim person from growing. The victim stays in a dependent position. So we need to get ourselves out of this. And the crazy part is, the one who looks the most innocent, the rescuer, really kind of creates the drama. If mom and daughter had stayed with, you're going to clean your room, and they had started working toward that together, there would have been some resolution between the two of them. But the rescuer steps in and disrupts that and creates a triangle, and we have to step out of the triangle. If you have questions as we're talking, please feel free to put them in the chat, and Madeline will grab those, and we'll have a little time for Q&A at the end. All right, how do you get yourself out of this drama triangle? You have the power to step out. If you find yourself in the villain place, which again is the easiest to recognize because you start to lose your mind, you ask yourself, what do I really want? What do I really want here? So mom, instead of getting the daughter to take responsibility for cleaning her room, she starts to get angry at grandma. And that's really not what she wants. She wants to empower her daughter so she can step out of the drama and say, what do I really want? And the question is, how would I behave if that's what I really wanted? In this case, I might say, let's pretend grandma's actually mom's mom. Hey, mom, grandma, I get it. You want to help out. I'm going to take Susie with me in her bedroom, and I'm going to help her out with training her for this. That's my job. It's not yours. Don't worry about it. It'll be good. And move toward what you really want, and how I would behave if I really wanted that more than I wanted to be right, or more than I wanted my mother to get out of my business, or anything else. The rescuer can ask themselves, what did they ask me for? Was there an actual request? Because the rescuer, you start to catch yourself before they even say anything. They look nervous, and you're like, oh, can I get you something? What do you need? You kind of stick your nose in people's stuff instead of letting them mature. And what did they ask me for? Or even the question, what would you want from me right now? Now, when you say this, you have to be willing to say, I can do it or I can't. So the daughter might say, well, I want you to clean my room, grandma. Say, I hear that you want me to clean your room, and I can't do that. But what I can do is I'll go in there with you, and I will help you figure out what to do first. That's what I can do, because that's what's good for everybody, and it keeps us out of drama. Now, the victim, I wouldn't expect a victim child to be able to ask this, but I would for any of us in the adult world. So we're going to start moving toward a little bit of adulting here. The victim can say, okay, what else can I do? When all the chaos starts to erupt, what can I do? Well, I could move toward my bedroom. And what else? I could say, Mom, I hear you. I'm sorry, I disobeyed. I got it. I could say, and what else can I do? This is a very empowering question. Now, sometimes as an adult, we find ourselves in any of these roles. I want to focus just for a second. Remember, the rescuer kind of creates it, but it looks the best. It looks like the Christian love. It looks like the right thing to do, but it's not. It can be really hard to convince someone that it's not. So you might find yourself in the victim role. In this case, I love this perspective from David Emerald, where he says the victim transforms their identity into a creator of opportunity, or a creator of inspiration, or just moving forward. So they create opportunities. If you find yourself in that victim role and you're feeling stuck, how do I create something new? If you, as a victim, start to interact with someone who's rescuing you, or if you find yourself in the rescuer position, you can begin to think of yourself as a coach. A coach who moves toward empowering the victim. The coach says, you have what it takes, and I'll help you find it. I mean, like when I was raising my kids, I'm still raising my kids. I have 3 of them still at home, but I was constantly trying to think, what can they possibly do? And how do I bring them all the way up to their ceiling? And sometimes I would recognize that I was rescuing them when one of my favorite interventions that, of course, my friend had no idea, but I went to visit a friend of mine who homeschools 4 boys, and they were all, maybe under the age of 12. And they're like, okay, it's Tuesday. Whose laundry day is it? What do you mean, whose laundry day is it? Her kids, 5 to 12, all did their own laundry. And they knew the day that they were doing their laundry, and they knew how to do it. And I was like, wow, my kids could do their laundry. Oh my gosh, it changed my life. Not only that, they could probably make their own lunches. Okay, so this might backfire on you because you have kids in a whole different span, right? You've got to think about actually what are they each capable of. So at the time I decided everyone could make their own lunch, instead of being the victim of the lunch making and frustrated by that, I said, I'll be the coach. You guys can make lunches. Tell me what you would like for lunch. I'll get it and you just pack it. Well, that was great for everybody who was older than 10. My youngest, for kindergarten, first grade, I don't know if it's true, but there's a family, fairy tale that my daughter would go to school and she would only have a wilted apple and some crackers in her lunch, and that I neglected her so much by not creating lunch for her, not doing that. Now, the truth is that that's probably true, that happened a couple times, because once I coached them, I kind of was like, go for it. If you want to eat an apple and a piece of scraggly cracker, go ahead. That might not have been the best thing. I was just enjoying my freedom. So every so often, you have to evaluate what are people's capacities and coach them into it. And if you haven't coached them into it, they don't know how. We get overwhelmed. So that's when we can change the villain into the challenger. The challenger is a healthy person who says, I'm going to take you one step at a time into what you can do. One step at a time. And if I've pushed you too far, I'm going to pull back and go to the coach so that you can create something new. So you can't decide what to eat. All right, I'm going to put 3 things out. These are all healthy options. You choose. And then in it, there's an empowering aspect to it. So this perspective is not just what do we say to ourselves, but who do we become to move out of this? Now, we're going to go to Q&A in a minute, but just for fun, why don't you think about yourself? What's your favorite position on the triangle? Just write it down in front of you. I'm not asking you to share it with anyone or make any confession. I just want you to put it on there. Just write it down. And now, think of the people that are the most difficult in your life and decide which part of the triangle they go to. Much easier, isn't it? Oh yeah, much easier. And here's the this is really going to blow your mind. We run around the triangle. We can go from victim to villain to rescuer in the same day. It just depends on what leverage works right then and which people. So don't tie yourself to one part, but we tend to favor one or the other. So now I'm going to go back to questions about the drama triangle and how it might be affecting you. Please leave them in the comments below. If you'd like to learn more, visit julianawilhelm.com. And I look forward to seeing you, and go be a force for good today.